What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Views from the Gravelot. We're back for another episode presented by Built in Buffalo. I'm one of your two hosts tonight. I'm Ben. That is Mike. And we have a very special episode tonight because we are going to talk about some very interesting ideas and prospects and targets for the Bills this upcoming offseason, whether it's trade or free agency, both. We'll get into both of them. We'll have our checklist of sort of what we want to see the Bills get and sort of we'll go through that and sort of a wish list and kind of list out our expectations and what we want to see this team do. Not necessarily a position, more of what we want out of that position and kind of get into all that. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Other than a minute ago, smoking my new kitten with my foot.
Yeah. We almost started it off with a instance. We would have had PETA all over this podcast. So that would have been something.
Yeah.
But yeah. Speaking of the Bills, though, it was a very busy week for them. Obviously, the Combine just wrapped up. A lot of exciting things going on. Free agency, we're recording this on Monday, so free agency, the tampering period starts a week from today. So you'll see offer. Yeah, it's going to be very fun. I'm very excited because it's on Monday and we're both off, so we'll be able to get the news as it comes in and kind of cover it the best we can. But yeah, I mean, teams are probably already starting to negotiate with players. You know how it goes. I mean, stuff goes on behind the scenes. The NFL does such a bad job at covering it and trying to hide that. Yeah, it's just terrible. They're already talking with agents. Mm-hmm. Teams are like ready to go. The offers will be finalized and sent out on Monday, though. But very exciting.
Ironic that a minute after free agency starts, all of a sudden 15 dudes.
Yeah, I know. 5 minutes after
that was quick,
the tampering series. Yeah, it was a very quick negotiation. Really good job, guys. We're talking about hundreds of $millions, billions of dollars being spent, and it's just in a matter of seconds. It's just it's just like that. But we have an entire checklist we wanted to go over before we get into some of the targets and specific players we wanted to talk about. And Mike, I kind of wanted you to go here first because you had a couple interesting ideas you had brought up and some interesting things you want to see the Bills get and acquire this offseason. But in terms of specific needs, what do you want to see this team go out and get this offseason? Obviously, besides the obvious, the big home run addition, which we'll get into later. But what are some of the things you want to see this team do and Brandon Beane go out and get this offseason?
I think personally, for me to feel like this offseason was a home run, aside from the obvious of getting the big fish pass rusher, I really want to see them add some depth speed to specifically their wide receiver room. I feel like they've been lacking that burner guy since John Brown, and it doesn't even have to be a top tier guy. I know I mentioned you earlier, Lil Jordan Humphrey, like guys like that, of that tier, just like, take the flyer out there, and if you can make something out of that, I feel like that could just add another element to this offense that even you said, a little while ago, was the best we're coming off of the best offense in franchise history. And if you can make that even slightly better, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be huge. And another thing I would like for them to do is go out and, if the money is available, go out and get a surefire safety. Mm-hmm. I know I have a name later on that everyone's going to be like, it's going to be a household guy, but obviously more than likely DeMar Hamlin's going to be leaving this team. You still have Taylor Rapp, you still have Cole Bishop. You're going to need to add another guy into that rotation, whether it's just for sheer depth or competition for that starting role. And I think, that'd be very important to patching up this defense that Brandon Beane has not seemed thrilled with lately.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Receiver, safety. I mean, I didn't really go into safety in terms of my needs. I just don't know how much this team's going to put into that position because they already invested a second-round pick in Cole Bishop. Taylor Rapp's a very valuable player to this defense. He's committed to him for 2 more seasons, so I don't know what their plan is there. And certainly they can upgrade over Taylor Rapp, but I think at the very least you have a starter there. He was playing very good football. Absolutely, and he made some big plays. He comes through for this team in big moments, and I really like Taylor Rapp. But again, there could be an upgrade made there, and in terms of athleticism, I think you can make the case for a couple different positions. Like the team just needs to get better athletes and guys that are quicker and are faster and just brings more to the table because this team. It's built on instincts and understanding the game, and that's great and all that. But at the same time, you have guys that can go out there and just win with their athleticism and have that element in those trades. So you want to see a little bit more of that. But back to receiver and what you said, and I think a lot of people want to say, okay, let's go out and get a T. Higgins. Let's go out and get DK Metcalf, and all that's great. But this team doesn't necessarily need that superstar guy. They proved that this year. We're talking about an offense, like you had said, I had mentioned, probably the best in franchise history. We're talking about an offense that had the most touchdowns in franchise history, the most points in franchise history, the first offense to ever have 30 rushing touchdowns and 30 passing touchdowns. It's very
And that
nitpicky
doesn't
when we
happen
talk
very
about
often.
yeah, it's extremely
You know,
rare, and it doesn't feel like you had that offense, which is crazy.
no.
But they were just extremely efficient and did a lot of nice things. But if there's one thing to nitpick, it is that receiver position needing more, speed on the outside, kind of putting the fear factor in defenses to
Mhm.
back off the line of scrimmage and give us too high safety looks, and when they do have the single high looks, to have the element to go past them and beat them and create one-on-ones. And like I look at the numbers here, I have them right in front of me. This was the 26 of 34 qualifying quarterbacks. Josh Allen averaged 10.5 yards per deep pass. Like he was not really pushing it down the field
Yeah, you
this
didn't
year.
really see him air it out like
No,
crazy, and
not
he
at all.
can,
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
can
he's
for sure.
very good at that.
He's extremely good at play action, which is something this offense needs to do more. And whether that's scheme or talent, it just needs to be more involved. And I think you look at the play action numbers, they were 29th in usage rate. They were also still top 10 in success rate. So we know the offense has it in them to have that in their offense. And whether they needed sort of that dynamic player on the outside that provides sort of that element downfield, it definitely needs to be more. And they faced single high coverage at the second highest rate in the NFL too. So the opportunities are there. They don't need a
This
superstar
offense
or
is
a
like
huge upgrade.
spectacular at executing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like
And
there was never really a point this season where I was watching this offense where I'm like, I just don't think that they can pull off what they need to in whatever moment that was. Like I had
right.
full confidence the whole time. I
Yeah.
think they need to take a slight page out of the Lions book and
Okay.
just go out and get like their JMO.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
whoever that's going to be, it's just like JMO's not even, I wouldn't even say he's a top 2 receiving option on that team, maybe even 3 if you want to count Gibbs. And there's just moments where all of a sudden it's the
He
third
opens things
quarter
up.
and
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, boom, 40 yards, 60 yards, touchdown here, touchdown there. Like
Yeah.
just making that big play to set the tone. Like, okay, you can't just sit here and wait on James Cook or
Yeah.
wait on Khalil Shakir to, give you 1,000 cuts, to kill you. Like
Yeah.
there's going to be that home run guy there.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the Lions. They're extremely efficient. They can move the ball down the field at their own pace, but they have that explosive element in their offense. The Bills don't really
Very
have that.
similar to the Bills. Very similar.
Yeah, the Bills can win and efficiently march down the field better than almost anybody in the league, probably the best in the league, but they just don't have that explosive element. And I think that's something, if you're going to nitpick this offense and need something out of this offense, it's that. But I think a majority of this episode will be talking about defense just because it's just there. It's the thing that's let them down the most in all these games.
For a
You talk
long
about the
time.
pass rush. It's just the thing. It's a constant trend, and it needs to be fixed. And they just keep trying, and they need to keep throwing darts at it because it's getting a little ridiculous now. We're talking about 4 losses in a row to the Chiefs in the playoffs, and it's all mostly because of the defense. The offense put up 29 points this year. I feel like that's more than enough to get you a win, especially an Arrowhead against a very
It's not a
buttoned-up
little
defense.
bit ridiculous. It's mutiny. It's
It is.
absolute mutiny.
It's crazy.
It's
But
horrible.
as far as the defense goes, there's a few things I want to see them get. And it starts with a little bit more athleticism and coverage versatility at corner. Rasul Douglas, we had mentioned it in the previous episode. I know you're a little bit of you like Rasul a little bit, and I think there's still a fine player in there.
I'm
but
okay with him,
when you do play man coverage, this is going to be primarily a heavy zone defense, but you're going to have to play both, and you're going to have to be multiple so you don't give away trends, and you're able to kind of give a little bit of both. And that's why they hired 2 coaches from man coverage backgrounds. He allowed 15.1 yards per reception against man coverage, 117 passer rating. And even Taron Johnson, who I really like and respect a ton, 18.5 yards per reception against man coverage and 115 passer rating allowed. It's just not good.
No.
And the philosophy that the new hire they made, Mike Pellegrino, the Nichols coach, was nothing cheap or nothing deep. And I think that's perfect because this team, again, the quick passing game, you saw it in the Rams game, just got killed. They were able to just move the ball, boom, 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 strike after strike, and it killed this team. So I want to see somebody that can do a little bit of both, give you a little bit of variance there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a true heavy man corner, but I want somebody that can have the skill set to match somebody's speed. Rasul Douglas, he ran a 4.59 in the combine way back when. So that's only gone down. So you need some more there. I think you just need somebody who can mirror a little bit and give you a little bit more there. And I just think the versatility is important. That's something that's going to be talked about with a lot of different things. Another thing is edge rusher. Like a lot of the Bills edge rushers, you'll see them just pocket compression, big on pocket compression. They don't really have a ton of speed rushers, and that's kind of why they broke the bank for a guy like Von Miller to give him a little bit of, like I said, a little bit more variance there. But they just need a guy, Mike, that can win with their bend, their flexibility, and speed. And there's a guy that comes to mind,
and that's
for
what
that.
Vaughn was great with.
And he was absolutely, he's the textbook definition of winning with bend.
Desperately.
And they definitely did. And I think there's still a little bit of that left in his game. You see some of the metrics. Like he was still pretty efficient this year. And whether it's a pay cut or he's released, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to keep him on as in a minor role on this team, sort of as a third pass rusher, primarily used on third downs. I don't think that's the worst idea in the world.
If he doesn't get a pay cut, what's he getting paid this year?
A ridiculous amount of money. He's due a lot. I don't know what the bonuses are in front of me. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know it's a stupendous amount of money. It's at the point where they literally have no other choice other than to have him take a pay cut or just cut him because it's that bad.
Could he take the same like deal that he took last year?
I don't know what it was, but it's probably similar to that.
My thing with Vaughn is if he doesn't work it out here, I mean, other than maybe Denver, just because of the connection, I don't really see a fit for him anywhere.
It's a sneaky one who he played for. I do think about it. It's the Eagles with Vic Fangio because there's that connection there, and he's going to be probably cheap. So like the Eagles are going to be like, hey, you're going to be like the fourth option on our line. You're going to get one-on-ones and great opportunities. Like you can do great things for us. That's a team that I would think about for him. But yeah, like I said, they just need a more balanced pass rush. You have too many guys that just win with power and just I think the main goal is like keeping the quarterback inside the pocket and doing things like that. But they just need to have some diversity and just improve their ability to rush from all angles. And not only that, it complements Rousseau and Jones and Oliver, just having a little bit of that skill set variance. It's important for me.
You can't go wrong with speed and athleticism.
Oh no. And it's something that the Bills just need to switch it up. It's just all of their rushers do the same thing, it feels like, unless your name's AJ Epinesa, who basically doesn't offer anything as a pass rusher at this point in his career. He's primary early down run defender,
which is absolutely insane because last year we were like, we need AJ Epinesa. We need to re-sign that dude.
Yeah.
And like, man, we should have seen the writing on the wall.
Yeah. And I mean, look, he's still a good run defender. He provides value there. He's a depth player. That's always what he's been. But again, another second round pick used on a player that's not even starting for you. It's disappointing. Mm-hmm. Last thing I want to cover before we get in the players is the interior. I think this is very important because we talk about a team and you think back to that Ravens game, they did win the game, right? But you just felt like there was just a huge personnel gap between the two teams. Like the Ravens, if they really wanted to, could just take it to the Bills. That the D-line was so undersized and they had to get, obviously multiple takeaways to really even give them a chance. And they won the game by one score, even though they won the turnover margin by a significant, margin. It's just
and Henry turned it up in that second half.
He did. He really did. He had a couple big ones that he broke. And I just don't want to be in that situation again where I'm just like, we can't hang with the Baltimore.
We were waiting on that all game. It was like, all right, is this going to be a drive? Or is it like waiting on him just to.
And it was a DeMar Hamlin, got to give him his credit. DeMar Hamlin shoestring tackle away from.
That was crazy.
Probably losing that
game. Crazy. Never thought in my life I'd ever see that one. But
yeah, he did. He made the play. Got to give him his flowers. But, they just need guys that can occupy space, control the line of scrimmage, eat up blocks, and necessarily it just you saw when Daquan was kind of playing in his prime and he opened things up for Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver was playing the best football of his career. And I think not only that helps Ed, Mike, it helps Terrell Bernard, who I think was just put in a bad situation this year because the defensive line just didn't help him out. They put him in some bad spots. Yes, but it was very up and down. He would have moments where he's just put in some rough spots. I just think this team needs to have that more of that a more formidable front against these power running schemes and allow yourself to kind of be multiple and have, you're a fighting chance in these games and you're not going into the game undersized, just trying to throw everything you have at these teams. And So it doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of size. You need some stoutness and guys that can eat up blocks and not allow these running backs to hit the second level like it's
Nah, go
nothing.
out and get some beef.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you
Get
can
some beef.
whatever you want. You just need a true one tech that can. And you know what? Another thing I was thinking about is Daquan Jones. I think he's perfect for that third down role. You don't have to use him every down. Gives him sort of a breather. It allows you to have sort of a healthy rotation of guys in there that can do different things for you. And it probably gives you better production if he's playing less snaps because he's not gassed every down, and he gives you sort of the best he can give you on those NASCAR looks and the third downs and your pass rushes. So, yeah, I would say that covers it in terms of what we want to see this team acquire. It's probably things I'm missing, but that covers the bulk of it. And I think a lot of it it would be a mistake for this team to not invest heavily at the defensive line. Let's just put it out there. I mean, this team doesn't go out and make some swings on defensive line. I would consider this offseason a massive failure because this has been the one constant that has let this team down year after year after year.
From the jump.
And yeah, and I know you feel the same exact way as I do, but yeah, let's get into some of our favorite free agent targets. I'll let you take the lead on this one. I know there's some guys you want to talk about, so who do you want to talk about first, and kind of get into why you want this guy on the Bills?
So the first name I'd like to talk about is Jevon Holland. I just think that now the Bills are the fun player. Right now the Bills are second in the betting odds to land him, aside from Miami re-signing him. And I just think, he's not too old. He's 25 years old, but he provides a bit more experience than what you have in Cole Bishop and in Taylor Rapp. Like, Taylor Rapp, has been a great utility player for the majority of his career, but he's never been like a dude. You know what I mean? And
I don't mean to cut you off, but the good thing about Taylor Rapp, and I just had looked into it, he's got such a value for his contract. Like, he can be a backup for you. You're paying him basically nothing. You're paying him like $3 million. So I'll let you continue. I just wanted to add that in there.
Very cheap. And I was looking earlier more like in depth with like his PFF grades and everything, and he was well above average in run defense. He was 39th out of 170 eligible safeties. And I just, this team struggles with the run. They've struggled with the run for the last few years. I just think that he would provide that Micah Hyde-esque balance to this defense that I think they were really missing last year. And I just think it'd be a perfect fit. Now, it's all based on the money. I mean, I don't want to go out there and grossly overpay the man. I know we were talking about what we possibly think he would get earlier. He's coming off of a down year. Miami and everybody on Miami, for the most part, besides Achane, is coming off of a pretty horrific year. So maybe put that on the back burner slightly. I think he's just a perfect fit for this defense and would provide a smarter, more athletic player than what we have now.
Yeah. And if there's one gripe I have with that safety room, you just mentioned it, is more athleticism. And this is a player, like I said, they're very familiar with Jevon Holland. They play him twice a year, obviously. Like, they know what he is. He at one point was viewed as one of the rising stars in this league. And, he had a down year, and I don't know what his market is going to be. I'd imagine he's going to get paid pretty good. And it's just like, if you're willing to pay Jevon Holland, are you willing to give up on Myles Garrett? And that's my only counterpoint to that. And if you get both, my God, would that be a fantastic offseason? But very good player.
Best season of his career.
Good player.
2022, he was 22 years old. So 2 years ago now, he had 96 tackles, 77 solo tackles, and he had 7 passes defended with a forced fumble and 1.5 sacks. To me, that just, and we've seen McDermott be able to get the absolute most out of guys that you just wouldn't expect. Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. That I just think he could take him back to that level, and I just think that would be huge for this team if they could.
And I think it gives you a clear long-term answer at safety. Cole Bishop, who I'm sure they like a lot. If you have Cole Bishop and Jevon Holland, now you have 2 clear-cut long-term answers at the safety position. This is something that, going forward, these are going to be our guys, and we have them both locked up. And
we liked Cole Bishop post-draft.
Right, and I still do like
very
Cole Bishop.
With that.
I think he had some nice moments even in the AFC Championship game. I thought he played pretty well given the circumstances.
He didn't make a lot of mistakes.
He didn't, and I don't think the moment was too big for him. So I think that
No.
shows a sign of growth and a player that's willing to learn and get better. And like I said, a lot of these players, and even on offense, like they're going to continue to grow and get better. And we know with the Bills, not all these development paths are linear like other teams. Like they take time. Their players have some later breakouts, and it pays this team some massive benefits. And I think Cole
Okay.
Bishops could be a really big breakout candidate. And we'll do an episode on that later in the offseason. But really like Cole Bishop, really like Jevon Holland. And I think yeah. I mean, if the
I
money's
trust the
right,
development of of secondaries from this coaching
yeah,
staff.
yeah, for sure. That's probably their best trait, developing guys in the
For sure.
secondary. I mean, look at Christian Benford, for example. But
Right.
yeah,
6th round pick.
if the money's right, I am all for it, and I would love him in a Bills
Be
uniform.
great.
I'm gonna go on to my guy now, and we'll kind of keep going back and forth. But a player, we're gonna go to the other side of the ball and talk about offense. A player I like a lot is Tutu Atwell from the Rams. Very, very good player. Only 25 years old, and I think with the bigger needs you have on defense, you need to be a little bit selective with your spending on offense. You can't go out and spend $10 million, like $15 million on a receiver like Amari Cooper. If he wants that, he could probably get it from somebody. It's not gonna be from us. It's an affordable solution, and it seems very reasonable. He's projected $4 million, at an average rate on Spot Track. Again, I don't know how accurate that is. That is
I
Spot
bet he
Track's number,
gets a
not mine.
little bit more.
I would say he's probably like close to like 4.5, 5-ish.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
He's a good player. He was 28th in yards per route run. He had a 94.0 PFF grade on passes 20 yards or more. It's just defenses respected the guy a lot and his speed. Obviously, that's the biggest quality and trait he's going to bring to the table is his speed.
Yes.
He had the 27th explosive play rate. I'm sorry, just had a very good explosive play rate. Second highest in the NFL in explosive plays per target. So you're getting that downfield juice that this offense desperately is missing. Good, consistent hands, does an excellent job working outside the numbers. And the biggest concern you had talked about it, he is tiny. He's 5'9", 165 pounds. So you're going to have to get creative in terms of minimizing the issue of him beating press because he's not going to work through contact. He's tiny, obviously. But that ties into what Joe Brady does a lot. And you even think about the play in the wildcard game where Curtis Samuel was motioned into a route and opened up a great opportunity downfield that scored a touchdown. He does a great job of doing that and putting guys in position to succeed. And I think he's not fearful of blocking at that size, which is kind of crazy considering how small he is. But he is a guy that he's just got a little bit of dog in him. He's a very niche player, but he's a niche player the Bills need. And like we said, this team is desperately missing that downfield explosiveness. He adds that element to this offense. He just balances this receiver room out. And I think that's what this team needs. They just need to round the lineup out. You don't necessarily need to break the bank for a guy. I mean, they just paid Khalil Shakir $60 million.
They also paid Curtis Samuel $30 million last offseason.
And I honestly think Curtis Samuel gets better if he stays healthy, which is a big if, and something probably a lot of people aren't betting on because of, you look at the injury history. But it's just like, if he gets better, Khalil Shakir is going to get better. You hope Kincaid's going to get better. You would imagine this team just doesn't need to go out and break the bank for a receiver. And I also, go ahead.
You know what I hope? I hope that by the time we're here next year, aside from obviously wanting to win a Super Bowl and everything, I hope that when you or anybody around me says Dalton Kincaid's name, I don't get immediately triggered.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned his name, and I actually just
sour taste.
Semi-raged.
It's a sour taste. I feel bad. I mean,
damn it.
He had some nice moments this year, right? But it's just the moment when it was the biggest moment, and we drafted the guy for his hands, right? That was his the number one thing, right? Like this is a guy who's going to catch the ball, eats volume over the middle, just do a lot for your offense. He just didn't do that for this team, and I don't know how much that's by design or it's just him. I would imagine it's a combination, but man, it was just frustrating to watch him this year.
We had such high expectations, and yes, they were probably too high.
They were really high,
but to not even come remotely close.
No, it was bad.
All.
It was really bad.
He was horrible all year. There's not one game I'll be like, that was the Dalton Kincaid. Not one game. Not one.
Yeah. I didn't feel good about it. I mean, you're fine. I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to round off this lineup, and you need to add a vet. And I think this also, by adding a veteran and not going out and spending a ton of money, it opens up the avenue of drafting a guy you have one of 2 second-round picks. You can use that on a good player. Trey Harris is a name that comes to mind. Isaiah Bond, I know he ran a slower 40 time, but there are guys in this class that can certainly fill out that role and sort of allow you to have, you don't necessarily have to have 5 receivers again, have 6 receivers, guys that can do different things. we all expect Mac Hollins to be back. Keon Coleman, you hope he gets a little bit better, and hopefully eventually develops into your true number 2 receiver, and you have a guy
He's
opposite
so
him.
important. He is so important to
His
what this
development,
receiving room's
yeah,
gonna
his
be.
development's very vital to the future of this offense.
It
And
is because what he can do if he fulfills that potential
yeah,
will
for
be
sure.
game breaking. But
100%. And
if he does not, it's like it's kind of crippling because you're committed to him for at least another 2 years
yeah,
after
and
this.
that's the risk you take with taking a guy that's like very boomer bust, right? Like
Yes.
he is super high ceiling, but very low floor. It's there's a lot of boomer bust there, so you're kind of hoping you got to be patient with him. Again, he is a younger player. You got to give him time. And I expect better things from Keon Coleman. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's got a lot of the physical traits you want. The separation, it's not great, but you're hoping that he learns as his time goes on in the NFL how to be a more nuanced player and offer you a little bit more in each silo that he kind of brings to the table. But
And can I throw out one more guy that we mentioned earlier in the
yeah, go
podcast?
ahead.
So
Be my
it
guest.
feels like it's been like at least 2 years people are talking about who's going to go out and trade for DK Metcalf. Have the Seahawks made DK Metcalf available?
See, I
Like,
don't know because there's been reports that the Bills are monitoring the situation, but it's coming from a guy that I don't really know, and I don't know if he's reliable. If I'm asking that question, he's probably not reliable, and I wouldn't put a ton of 100% faith in him. He is a Seahawks reporter, but I mean, yeah, I mean he's a guy. I have a ton of respect for JSN and what he's done. I think he's proven that okay, this is going to be our guy.
he's a stallion.
He literally is making Tyler Lockett retire. I know age is a factor, but like he just stole his job and then some. He had a great year, and
He did.
you're creating a hole by trading DK. But again, it's a team that's sort of transitioning to the next stage of what they want to be as a franchise. And DK's 27, 28, so he's
That's
close to
still
30.
relatively,
It's
you can get a
young.
couple more good
It's
years out of him.
young, but I just don't know what the market is for him, and I think the team likes him. But again, contract's another thing. If he
Doesn't
wants a
make
lot of
sense to
money,
me.
I think you
Not no
don't.
sense.
I think if you're the Seahawks, I'm paying a JSN 10 times out of 10. You got Kenneth Walker. I think that's the foundation of the future of your offense. So
See, and a
he
lot
could
of
be
people are
available.
loving Kenneth Walker, and I'm
Charbonnet
telling
too. I
you,
mean, they got two guys back
Charbonnet
there that
too, but I'm telling you right now, Kenneth Walker will not be a Seahawk in 2 years.
probably not. I mean, the running back position, we know how that goes. The
Very
shelf life
volatile, but
is
I
very
just
short. Yeah, a little side note
always
there,
hurts.
but yeah,
Yes.
I know people have been bringing up DK. I just don't expect that kind of move. I think this team is gonna make a splash based on all the comments being has made, but it's not gonna be on offense. It doesn't make
A
sense.
DK
It
move
doesn't
would
make
just be
sense.
shocking to me. Like, not even
It
like,
would be
whoa, it'd be like, why would
really.
Seattle, why? Yeah, it would be, honestly.
It-
I'm not gonna lie. I don't get why Seattle would want to trade him. I mean, I know
yeah,
he's not fitting the exact scheme, like, or build you're under right now, but like,
yeah.
you still got Geno, like
Yeah,
all
that's
this
my
talk
point.
about
It's
they're
like
gonna go
you've
out
never
and get
seen
a guy.
DK with like since Russell Wilson with a true franchise, and we know what he did with Russell Wilson. He's been very productive, very good player.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I would love him on the Bills, but I just don't think it's a
I would too,
realistic
but
option.
no,
I
I
just
don't
don't
either.
think that's it. Let's go in another player. You got another play for us? You want to get into here?
Yeah, so not a super big name guy, but if you guys remember in, long many moons ago in past episodes with I want to say it was Greg from Cover One during the trade deadline
He
episode, we
did.
brought
I
up
did bring this play. I know what
Sebastian
you're going to talk about.
Joseph-Day. Yeah.
Yeah,
6'4", 310 pounds, 29 years old. He was a dog against the run,
yeah.
like an absolute
Mhm.
dog. PFF ranked eighth out of 219 possible defensive tackles in the league. 16 QB pressures. He's a guy that, will play. He can play, 1 through 3, almost 500 snaps last year. I just think he would be a very inexpensive guy to put in a hole that is so obvious on this team. And I think he just fulfills a need like
Yeah.
that we have talked about. I think if you can go out and get a guy that was top 10 in the league at his position for a need that you have so desperately, and he's not going to cost you super, super big bucks, you go out and you get that guy 10 times out of 10.
It's the Bills have expressed interest in Joseph Day. I don't quote me on this. I think they had him in for a visit at one point. I think they brought him into the
Really?
building. So I know the team. I want to say the team has interest inside the building. There's guys that want him on the team. And again, I think a long time, a lot of people have been stressing Sebastian Joseph-Day. And like you said, Greg from Cover One, they do a good job of covering these guys. They had mentioned his name as well. Yeah, he's very good against the run. Very stout player. When I watched him, very very stout player. Really good upper half. He plays with a lot of strength. He's a really good player, and he's kind of bounced around a little bit, but he found something there in Tennessee this year, and they've really found a player there. But I think how old did you say he was?
29.
29. He's going to be entering his 30s. I imagine he wants to go somewhere where he's going to truly get a chance to win and compete for titles next few years. So
maybe,
Buffalo
or
is
he'll
certainly a
value
fit.
term.
Yeah,
one
it
or
could
the
be.
other.
I mean, or he's just going to make his big money. Like, I honestly don't know. I feel like the defensive tackle market's going to be interesting this year because there's a lot of players that kind of randomly broke out. Like even a guy like Poona Ford, who was with the Bills last year, it had a really good year in LA. Tyler Tart was also in LA, had a really good year. A lot of really good quality veterans stepped up for their teams this year, and I think teams are going to be like, okay, there's probably cheap options for us to be had, and we don't need to break the bank. So I don't know what that market looks like, but I would welcome him with open arms. Absolutely.
When it
I would
comes to
love
the
him.
defensive tackle market, unless you're going out and getting like the Christian Wilkins type, guys, like years past,
You're
what you're
usually
really
not
trying to
seeing a
do is
ton of.
just take your shot in the dark and hope that you hit a diamond in the rough.
You know, another thing is, Mike, this is a very, very deep draft class at defensive tackle. And I think a lot of teams are going to realize that, like, there's guys that can go 4 rounds deep here that are really could probably argue starring your defense. Teams are going to know that and be like, okay, it's not a great defensive tackle class in free agency, but it's a great one in the NFL draft. So I don't know how many teams are going to be willing to spend there. So there could be value to be had there. Another
Starting to
guy,
think we're not going to have a lot of draft picks.
yeah, DJ Jones is a guy who's a bit more pricier. Had a really good year for Denver.
Yeah, I was looking at
Uh,
him too. He was ranked 58th out of 219 possible defensive interior linemen, but he was a very, very much so above
he
average
was
pass rusher.
I think don't quote he was in top 3 in run stop win rate per ESPN. So he's a very good
Really?
run stop. He's very good. Another very stout player. He's not the biggest defensive tackle in the world. He's like on the lower end of 300, but he's good against the run too.
Believe it
He
or
ate up
not, he
blocks.
only had one more pressure than Sebastian Joseph-Day.
Yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing. Like a lot of
And he
these
was ranked
guys,
very much worse. And
I
that's
honestly
what's
think
crazy.
the gap between like the best defensive tackle in the market, which is probably Milton Williams, to the worst one isn't like that
I
significant.
think Milton Williams ends up getting like tagged or
I
something. I don't see them
I
letting him go and sweat.
no, I think they're gonna let him go. I think he's gonna get it back from like Carolina or something. A team that needs
Really?
just somebody up front, be a presence there. That's a team I think
Aren't they
about. I
waiting
think
on
they were
Derek
linked to him
Brown
as well.
though?
Derek Brown's great, but he can't stay healthy. It feels like he missed
But they're
a
already
game.
paying
Good part
him
is
a
they
lot
are
of
paying
money.
him, but again, it's the Panthers. They have like $100 million in cap space right now. So
They're the
they're
Raiders of now.
yeah. Um, yeah, I like that as a player for defensive tackle. I'm gonna get another defensive tackle that I don't think I haven't seen his name circulate that much when I look at like potential targets for the Bills. I haven't seen people talk about him that much. Ironically enough, I just realized today when I was looking through Twitter and like looking through researching this guy, he actually visited the Bills last offseason. And it's Calais Campbell. Um, yes, he's 38 years old, and that's a big part, but
He's only 38.
the dude was phenomenal for Miami this year. He had the 7th most run stops in 2024. He was the first in run stop percentage. He was still productive as a pass rusher. He had 5 sacks. He was 20th in pressures, 3rd in batted passes. Like all that is still there. Him and like Cameron Hayward are the textbook definition of like ageless wonder at that position because they just keep going. But then again, he checks every box for me because he has the size. Obviously, he's like freakishly tall. He can bat passes. He's got the mentorship ability, which I really like
Yes.
because a guy like Dwayne Carter has a lot to learn. And if you have a guy in the same room with him like Calais Campbell and Daquan Jones, that's a really good opportunity for him to grow as a
Also
player.
former Walter Payton Man of the Year. So
Yes,
probably
and
good
that's
leader
that's
as
another
well.
thing. Very good off the field presence brings that. And Ryan Nielsen, when he was the defensive coordinator, now the Bills' senior defensive assistant, who's going to have a lot to say with this defensive line, essentially the de facto defensive line coach. They just didn't give him the title. It just feels like that. Signed him when he was with Atlanta as the defensive coordinator. So I feel like there's ties there. Obviously, he was hosted on a visit last offseason. So there's multiple people within the building, including the coaching staff, which has been proven to be interested in this player. I just think it also allows the Bills to still dip into the well of this deep defensive tackle class because it's not a long-term answer. This is going to be a one-year deal, and that's it. And he's the perfect example of a rental. Still a great player, still stacks and sheds with an unreal violence, great run stuffer, and there's a couple other defensive tackles that are on the market, but this is my number one target because he's not going to cost you anything because he's 38
No.
and he's still very productive, not only rushing the passer, defending the run. He just eats blocks.
And he
He's
wants to
just so
win.
good. Doesn't want to win. I know Miami wants to keep him. I know he'd probably like to stay in Miami to ride off your career in Florida. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I think the guy he needs to get a ring. He's had such a good career, such an underrated player. I love
He
Calais
was a
Campbell.
great player with those Jags teams.
And the Cardinals, man. He
Mhm.
was good he's been good for a long time. He's still good. It's crazy that he's this dominant at his age. And I just list off those numbers. It's like I was like surprising myself when I was saying this, like, wow. But yeah,
38.
very good player, very good character. He just answers a lot of those questions that I had pointed out in the checklist. But I'll let you go with your next guy here. I know we kind of covered D tackle. We'll kind of move to a different position. Who do you got for us?
So we're going to stick with the defensive line, and it's not a guy that's a free agent. Actually, here's what I feel like would be smarter.
You want to bring him up?
I feel like we should talk about Myles Garrett first, and then
we'll save the big fish for last. Let's keep going with the small.
I feel like guys. I want to talk about Jonathan Allen, but I feel like he's like plan
C. If you get Jonathan Allen, you're not getting Myles Garrett. That's what that feels
right.
like.
That's what I'm saying. So,
but
like,
he's still.
I feel like we should talk about Myles Garrett.
No, I got some more free agents to talk about. So like,
okay.
Do you have any left?
Let me not on my phone. I have a couple. Like, I could talk about like none that would matter. Let me just say that none that would matter.
Okay. I got one more guy before Myles Garrett. So if you have anybody else you'd want to add, I can get into this guy if you want to just.
Let's get into it.
To talk about him. Okay. So the last player before I want to talk about trade targets is Paulson Adebo, cornerback from the Saints. Very interesting player because I genuinely don't know what his market's going to be because he broke his femur this year, but in the 7 games he played, he was extremely productive, like ridiculous. He's 6th lowest passer rating allowed. He's
man corner, zone corner.
Does a little bit of both, actually. He's a background in both. He in the NFL primarily been man because of Dennis Allen and the system he's run. But at Stanford, he played a little bit of off coverage with Lance Anderson, just sort of a veteran defensive presence at the college level. But he's got a really good he tests really well athletic. He's got a 9.5 raw athletic score. So he's very, very good athletically. And he, again, checks that box of what we want out of that position. And he's really productive as a playmaker. He has 10 career interceptions. He had, I think, 3 this year. He brings that element to it, sort of what Rasul Douglas did in the first year with the Bills, and that's what we liked a lot. And I think he just allows this team to be flexible at the second cornerback spot. You can kind of give a little bit of both worlds. You can do man, you can do zone. You can kind of have them do different things for you because you know what you have at cornerback 1. It's a lockdown, true number 1 corner, Christian Benford. So it's a really good buy low candidate. I think he's going to be a buy low candidate. Again, I just don't know because he's coming off of an injury. I would imagine he's going to get like a 1-year prove it kind of deal. He's, again, another guy who's familiar with Ryan Nielsen, has familiarity there. So I know there's somebody in the building that was there when he was drafted. And he's also a really good run defender. He is like sort of the lunch pail guy, the textbook definition. He will fly to guys. He plays very physical. And a lot of Saints guys have done that for many years now. They just play with that MO. But he brings that sound run defense, playmaking ability. I would say the only issue I have with him, he's very, very grabby. He is usually among the league leaders in DPI. So that's something you gotta work with. And he can be volatile sometimes. So you're on the deeper passes, but I think overall he's better than Douglas. He gives you the athleticism. He's got the proven results and production you want out of that position. And he's a guy who can play for us a year and go out and make a bag and for somebody else next offseason.
I still think that let Douglas walk, send Kyer Elam to the moon. If they go out and pick up a guy like that, they're still short 1 corner.
And that's what I think it is, though. Like, again, that's the great thing about having 2 second-round picks. You can kind of dump some resources into other positions and kind of double dip and get a veteran and get a rookie and kind of let them play it out and see what you have there in a year from now. So I like that player a lot. There was a couple other corners I looked. It's not a great cornerback market. I mean, it's very top heavy. I mean, like
You
Shavarius
mentioned
Ward.
Darius Slay earlier today.
That's a
Maybe
fun one. He had a solid year, but I feel like he's gonna have a market.
I
I
still
think just
think
off
he's
his
going to be
name
a
alone,
Lion, but
it
that's
makes
just
sense. Just a reunion, run it back with them one last time.
perfect fit for that
Yeah,
defense and what they need.
he's like he just epitomizes what it means to be a Lion. He played with that
Yeah.
franchise for so many years in the dark ages. Like he wants to go back and like experience the good
You
times with
can't
them. It
blame
makes
him.
sense. No, you can't. You can't at all. But yeah, that would be my cornerback target. I would mainly focus on the draft for corner, just again because the cornerback market is going to be stupendous. It's going to be a lot of money. We saw Rasul Douglas. We mentioned his contract prediction last episode was like 10 million. It's like 3 years, 30 million, which is too many years for a 31-year-old, 30-year-old. I don't know, but it's a lot. Let's go to the big one. The one that
Okay.
everybody is very, very excited to talk about. I'll let you take the floor. You're
Yeah.
kind of jumping to the gun here. Let's talk about
Yes.
Myles Garrett. What does he bring to the table?
Everything.
I mean, besides the obvious, like,
Everything.
yeah, pretty much.
You need him.
Yeah.
Like this team needs Josh Allen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take him out. Myles Garrett is, I mean, that dude is unbelievable. He would be the Josh Allen of this defense. He's a guy where it's like you plug him in and you're immediately that pass rush is saved. It's like the second former defensive player of the year. I know controversial with Pittsburgh fans, you know, they love TJ Watt. Let me just pull up
A
his
lot of
stats
fans
here.
love comparing their best edge rusher to Myles Garrett because my money, best defensive player in football. But I'll get into that in a second. But
he's up there. 6'8". Wait, no, am I tweaking?
Is he 6'8"? I don't think he's 6'8". No way.
What? What? Hold on. No. He's 6'4"?
Yeah,
I
6'4".
I swear on my soul, I thought Myles Garrett was like 6'8" this entire time.
I was gonna say you're tweaking.
Oh my god.
Carry on.
Besides the point. 6'4", still pretty big. Behemoth of a man. A guy that has had 14 sacks, 14, 16, 16, 12, 10, 13 and a half. I mean, 4-time first team All-Pro. Just, he would be if it worked out, I would see him being the second best pass rusher in this franchise's history. And if we had Myles Garrett, I'm so all in. I don't even care what we do for the rest of the offseason. I could care less because you got the man.
Yeah.
For the defensive side of the ball.
This would be the most exciting transaction in Buffalo sports history, bar none.
Yeah.
It would take the cake from the Diggs trade because Diggs was great, but he was never like a superstar with the Vikings. He was like a star.
Yes.
He was not at the level of Myles Garrett.
No.
Because Myles Garrett is a freak. Like
Myles Garrett at times could be the best player in football.
Oh my god.
Like
the dude league. Is so I was like watching some of his tape just messing around earlier, and I'm like, dude, he would just ragdoll some of these tackles.
It's like
it was ridiculous. He would make like good tackles look like idiots. He has just, and it's just like the presence of Myles Garrett alone. You wipe away all the production, and all that. What he does for this defensive line, oh my gosh! You talk about Greg Rousseau. He's going to get one-on-ones. He's going to actually have opportunity.
He makes it immediately.
We talk about
6 defensive line.
You know, when you talk about Rousseau and he has these great games against poor tackles and bad when he gets opportunities, he's great. You're going to have that opportunity for him every game with Myles Garrett on the field. Just the presence, the domino effect that he has on this defensive line, he would have on this defensive line is insane. Yeah. He just transcends any defense, this guy. And Cleveland has an opportunity to take up Abdul Carter in top 3. To me, it feels like, just go ahead and get the picks for Myles Garrett, kind of reset yourself, pay rookie money.
Trade back again if I was them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I would take Abdul Carter, get the rookie contract, get a really good pass rusher, and just rebuild.
So far away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just like reset the superstar pass rusher. You need a star pass rusher to win this league. Get Carter, rebuild your roster, and go from there. But like I said, he is just a freak. And we talked about it. I just reading the tea leaves and what Bean was saying at the combine, what he said basically all offseason is like, it feels like they're trying to position themselves for this kind of move. And they have the financial flexibility to make this work. It's not like this is totally unreasonable from a cap perspective. Greg Thompson, a guy we'd mentioned a couple times throughout this podcast, does a great job on the cap analysis. He says it is possible to fit him in relatively easily. And so that's why I don't want to dump a ton of resources on free agents. And it's troubling because you got to wait it out a little bit because I'm sure they're going to have a very strong market for Myles Garrett. But the Bills got to be right in there. They got to be at the top of the list. You have draft capital. You have 2 second-round picks. I'm trading at bare minimum 2 first-round picks for him. He is that good. He is arguably the best defensive player in football. Yep. He is going to create opportunities for everybody on the defensive line. His total package, his complements his speed, his bend, his power. He's got the whole freaking thing on top of those athletic traits, being 6'4" and built like a freaking alien.
Yep.
Like he is. I would be over the moon. I would be streaking in my backyard if we landed Myles Garrett.
I mean, I could see
it's very obvious. I mean, I know we don't. It takes 2 idiots like us to say this, but like Myles Garrett, it's just. I'm in love with the idea. If we got Myles Garrett, I'd be so freaking happy. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And being said, he wants a guy
feels
like
like he wants to come here. Like he's talked about Buffalo multiple times.
Yes,
and it sounded real good every time.
Deion Dawkins and Josh Allen are linking up with him at the award show and Pro Bowl, and he's saying the TMZ reporters he doesn't mind snow. I feel like he's dropping a couple hints here and there. I don't know, man. I'd be so happy. And like he had said he would love to have a Chris Jones, but they rarely come available. Well, here's one that's available. He's available. Here's your opportunity. This would be, without a shadow of a doubt, the best trade in Buffalo sports history instantly.
I'll be honest. I would not care if they overpaid.
Oh no, God, no! I don't care what you got to get this guy. This is a player that you break the bank for. This is a guy you've been waiting to have on your defense for years and years. You've tried it with Von Miller. You've tried it with first-round picks. This is your opportunity. Go out and make that big splash move. And I think
he will be your guy for the rest of Josh Allen's career.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the stats. If he averaged 9.5 sacks until he's like 38, which I think is very possible, he would break the sack record. That's just how good this guy is. He would. He would break the sack record. That's how good this freaking guy is. Hey, the other sack leader, he's a Buffalo Bills player. And an interesting little nugget I had noticed throughout Garrett's pre-draft process, he was very he worked a lot with Bruce Smith. So there's a connection there. So I think that has some value and some weight. So my God, that's the dream scenario. If we go out and
we get Myles Garrett, who's better than us?
I just can't. We got to prove it, I don't want to give us that title until we really go out and play. It's going to probably take 2 weeks for me to start.
Fuck that, Ben. If we go out and get Myles Garrett, can you legitimately say that there is a team in the league that is better? Because I can't.
I can't put my bias aside, but yeah, we'd be the best.
And I'm legitimately not even being biased because
I'm trying not to,
right? So if we go out and we get Myles Garrett, Greg Rousseau, soon to be paid by someone out there, whether if it's hopefully not us, somebody goes out career year. We just talked about how Terrell Bernard desperately could use some help from this pass rush, goes out, has an all-pro season that, frankly, he just deserves.
Christian Benford is going to be put in a way better spot.
The whole secondary is going to be put in a way better spot because the quarterback isn't going to have 5-6 seconds to throw the ball. By the time you blink twice, he's there. Yeah. Maybe even once. He is there. He is in you.
Yeah.
Night.
Yeah, he's that good. But yeah, I mean, let's just hope. I'm hoping every day. I'm waiting for that Twitter notification, man, because I would go nuclear, and I'm sure about every Bills fan would too. I know we had it's kind of hard to top Myles Garrett, but we had mentioned Jonathan Allen. He feels like a backup plan. He's still a very good player, Jonathan Allen. Still very productive. He had a down year with Washington, but in the playoffs, he actually showed up in a big way.
He was also hurt.
Yeah, he was playing with some injuries. I've liked Jonathan Allen for a long time. I think he would really, Alvarez and another player that really benefit, and so would Terrell Bernard. He would not provide obviously the same extent Myles Garrett would, but he would provide that domino effect to this defensive line to make everybody play better. And that's the thing. You got to take a swing. If you don't get Myles Garrett, you got to get freaking somebody. If you don't leave this offseason with at least a star player added to this defensive line, I would consider it a failure, considering you have the financial capabilities of doing it, and it is just making this defense significantly better. It was probably the worst defense we've seen under Sean McDermott it just needs to get better.
I'm all in on Myles Garrett.
I am too.
Like I
am too.
really could give two shits about anybody else.
Yeah.
I feel like if we don't walk away with Myles Garrett, then I consider the offseason a 50% failure.
I know.
Like,
I
you
know.
can go
People
out and go and get
consider.
a great guy, great player, but
Yeah. I mean, I'm just not going to take that approach just because there's ways you can build a really good roster without him. Obviously, he is the dream. He is the guy you need to go out and get. But
there's no reason you should miss out on him, though. There's none.
this is the opportunity for Brandon Beane to go out and could be the difference between this team not ever winning a Super Bowl with Josh Allen.
The Browns
really
aren't going to be like, hey, give me 3 first-round picks. Like
you got to think eventually they're going to budge. You got to think eventually they're going to budge. I know they would eat a substantial amount of money to do it.
Really?
But I mean,
I would take the whole contract.
No, they would take because of the dead cap. It's nothing to do with the money retaining or anything.
Okay.
It's just it's a tricky situation for them to navigate. So that's the only hurdle.
Did they say they're willing to trade him, or is just Myles Garrett?
No, they're like hell bent on like not trading him. They have publicly like said like, okay, we're not trading this dude. Stefanski has said that. Barry has said that. The GM, like they are just basically giving the public like we're not doing that. And hey. The guys requested a trade. The agents said they don't want him to be here. He doesn't want to be there. He's not willing to talk to them. He doesn't even want to speak to the GM. So, I mean, you really don't have any leverage. So,
yeah,
I feel like a trade has to happen. I mean, you would imagine.
You think this is pre-draft? Obviously pre-draft.
It's not like they're in position to win anytime soon.
When is the draft?
April 20-something.
So we have roughly 2 months.
I would say a trade is going to happen. I would say before the draft. I would think because you need to like. I feel like I think we'll know. Okay, a week after free agency, if the Bills don't go out and spend a ton of money, because they have, like I said, they have the capabilities of spending the money. They don't go out and show that we're spending a ton of money on players and we're like making those cost-effective additions like the guys we had listed previously. I think it's a clear tell that we're going for this guy. And I think we'll find out relatively soon throughout the free agency process what their plan is. I think they're going for him. I do. Just reading the tea leaves, just reading the context behind what Beane is saying. It just, to me, it feels like he wants the target.
Bad. Like it sounds like he knows. Like I have to get him at all costs. I can't let him go to the Eagles. I can't let him go nowhere. Like he has to be a Bill.
Yeah.
He has to be a Bill. Like
big time. And the worst.
It's not even just 2 dudes sitting in front of a camera saying that shit. It is the general manager of the team.
Of the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. It's
feeling the same way.
I mean, it takes a 2-year-old to know the value he brings to a team. But yeah. I mean, that was a fun episode. I really love this time of the year, man. It's just so fun, and I it's like Christmas. Like you don't know what you're gonna get, and it has that same feeling to it because it's like, okay, what are we getting this year? Are we getting socks or are we getting a PlayStation 5? Yeah.
Hopefully we get the damn PlayStation.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Please.
But let's see what Brandon Beane brings us, and I'm all in. If we get Myles Garrett, man, I will be unbearable on this podcast, and this podcast episode will be unbelievable and be a lot of fun.
Frankly, nothing else we talk about will matter because
we got Myles Garrett, dude. I'm buying a jersey instantly, dude.
I would too.
Yeah,
I would too.
Yeah. Again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Links will be in the description below. Big thanks to Built in Buffalo again for hosting another podcast of ours. Great network. Check them out. Their links will be in the description below. Dave Myers, thank you. Thank you, everybody that's tuning in. Everybody that's new that's tuning in, please leave a comment, like. It helps out the algorithm. We really appreciate it. If you're listening on Spotify, please check us out on YouTube. We're also on Twitter, Instagram. All the links will be in the description. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Everybody have a good night, and go Bills.
Until next time. Just